Hello. Good morning. Happy Mother's Day. I almost forgot to bring the mic up. I was going to have to yell like a real mom. Sorry. Okay. This is a joke. What do Hannah, Ruth, Esther, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Abigail, the woman with the alabaster jar, the Samaritan woman, Mary Magdalene, the widow of Zarephath, and the persistent widow all have in common? Well, they all knew a secret about love. And that is what we're going to talk about today. A secret that I think can help us be more loving on Mother's Day and every day. So like I said, as you know, it's Mother's Day weekend. I told Coy a couple of days ago, I think next year I want to provide mimosas. Wouldn't that be cool for a church to do? Wow, yay. It could be mocktail mimosas or the other kind. It could, whatever you like, however the Lord leads. And I just thought it would be a fun thing to do, so maybe next year. That was the little test, Coy. So for some, Mother's Day feels so warm and it smells like pancakes, doesn't it? How many of you had pancakes this morning? Anybody? Are pancakes out? It's just me that wants them. Okay, well, that's what I like to smell on Mother's Day. For others, though, Mother's Day has felt complicated before today even happened. It felt complicated when you got out of the car. But we do have all of this in common, like Ruth and Mary and Abigail and all these other women I mentioned. We have this one thing in common, all of us, male, female, all of us have this one thing. We were all born to a mother, right? All of us, even Jesus was born to a mother. And after that, though, the stories go everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Every person born to a mother has a story that splinters off into a unique story, which we love to talk about here at Somos. Some of us, we were loved really, really, really well. And that's beautiful. Some of us had to mother ourselves. And some of us had to mother our siblings. Some of us were hurt. Some of us are moms. Some of us want or wanted to be. Some of us decided absolutely not will I ever be a mother, and I am so glad, and congratulate me on that clarity. Some of us, in a moment of passion, have paired the word mother with an adjective we definitely didn't learn in Sunday school. Like goose. What did you think I was going to say? All that to say, it's complicated. The word mother is complicated. And I'm not going to stand up here and say that it's not, because it absolutely 100,000% is complicated. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about what brings motherhood its shape. For me, I think the thing that brings motherhood shape is love, because in its purest form, no matter which way it looks, it's the most powerful and good thing that exists. So as I was writing this, I was thinking, if it is the most powerful and good thing that exists, why, if love is so good, why can it be so painful? Why? Have you ever thought about this? Love doesn't feel safe. I put the word safe on the screen because I wanted you to think about how safety feels and how we walk towards safety. But how in the moment you begin a relationship, whether you're 12 or 100, when you start to walk toward love, you become afraid, right? Do any of you remember the first note you wrote to someone because you liked them a lot? Raise your hand if you wrote a note and you maybe asked them if they would like you back. How terrifying was that? How scary was that? It was not safe because it was a condition that you threw out that might not be returned. So the love that we celebrate on Mother's Day is beautiful and powerful, but it doesn't always feel safe. On the day that I brought Kira home from the hospital, and anyone who has brought a child home, whether biologically, foster care, adopted, any which way you bring a child home, you gain this new ability to imagine all of the ways someone could die. It's like your imagination grows like double. And so it was the same with Maya. When I brought Kira home, it happened. things, I'll just explain like how it worked. Like things that seemed fine and normal, like a car, like a sidewalk, like air, all seemed so villainous, like could threaten their lives. Like crowds and bikes and outside and regular Kraft macaroni and cheese, all of it was so scary to me. Because it could kill them someday or give them some type of behavioral disorder or cancer. What if I give them regular Kraft mac and cheese like I was raised with? What if I feed them that still? What if I still eat it? I still worry I'm gonna die because of mac and cheese. I'm sorry, kids. I'd never figured out how to not feed you that. But love does change how we see the world. And I remember when the elevator doors opened and Kira was in the little car seat and she was not even 2 days old. I remember when the elevator doors to the hospital opened and we walked outside and when the air hit and I was terrified. Have you ever loved someone that much that you would test the air quality before you walk outside? Love can change how fast we drive. Love can change how we speak, how we wait, how we panic. You guys, I am losing my girls to adulthood as we speak. One is probably not even here because she's driving herself and she'll be here whenever she arrives. And I love that for her, but hate that for me. And I think as I became an adult mom, well, I am still becoming an adult, that's also true. Freudian slip there. Whoops. As I became a mom to growing up adults, I started to try to control my love and their love, and I think it started to make me a little weird. Have you ever loved so much that you became a little weird about it? The way I text my kids is weird now. I want them to emoji me back. I want them to say something, anything. And I think I started to feel a little bit controlling even, and I wanted to just hold this, shove everything I can that is into what's coming because I don't want what's coming to be. I don't want them to move out and away from me. I don't want to take everything that I built in their nursery that's still in their bedroom and move it to a new dorm and then to a new house and them to slowly become their own person. I would rather them just stay with me. But that's not loving at all. That's just weird. And so in order to fix that, I started playing tennis. Really. I used to run to pray and get the stress out. But I realized I needed something else to focus on or I was going to make both of my daughters go slowly insane. Just checking on them all the time and not having a life myself, I decided maybe I should try something new. So I talked to this guy at the YMCA. I go there often. We're in a weight training class. They've been in it for 19 years, and I go sometimes. But this guy is from Turkey. His name is Yilmaz. For 14 years, he's been asking me to learn tennis, and for 14 years, I've been ignoring him. So one day, in my boredom and in my weird mom brain, I told Yilmaz, hey, do you remember when you asked me to learn tennis 14 years ago? And he laughed, and he said, yes. Are you ready? And I said, maybe. And he invited me to the tennis courts on a Saturday morning, and he said, I want you to meet someone named Jean. So I go to the tennis courts, and I meet Jean. Jean is someone, he said, can teach me everything I need to know about tennis. And I said, okay, that sounds perfect. Sign me up. Let's go. I meet Jean and find out she is one of the most incredible 86-year-old athletes you will ever meet. We get on a tennis court, and it's very, very clear that I have no idea what I'm doing. But with time and patience and Thursdays at the courts, she has shown me a few things. She showed me that life is forward, and that's how sports work, but also that's how life works. If you're constantly looking back, you won't get to see what you need to do next. She taught me how to keep my eye on the ball. Anybody ever try to do that? It's really tough, especially when the ball's so tiny and small and fast. And I used to keep my eye on a volleyball, and that's much easier because volleyballs are big and possible. She said that I should stop jumping so much. Why? Just, stand still. You'll have better success. And I started to wonder if she was teaching me about tennis or about life. I was very confused. And slowly, Thursday after Thursday, she even taught me how to kiss. K-I-S-S. Keep it simple, sweetie. She might not have said sweetie. She might have said something else. And actually, Jean is here today. I'm not going to show you where she is, but she has become someone who's teaching me what it looks like to fall in love with something in a good way. I told her, I said, I really am starting to love tennis. And she said, well, maybe you should play a match. So I did. And I lost my first singles match, but it was a battle. I had never run sideways before in my life. Some of you know I've run multiple marathons, and that's a hard thing to do, but it's very easy because you run in a straight line and there's no dodging, no moving, no deciding, no looking at anyone else. You're just running. And I even broke my own jaw doing that. Just hitting the ground with no force or opponents, just doing it all by myself. So I wondered if I should just quit while I was ahead, because so far I hadn't broken anything. Nothing is majorly wrong. My wrist was hurting, my elbow was hurting, my knee was hurting, my shins were hurting, but for the most part, I wasn't broken. So I told Jean, I don't know if this is for me, but somehow through a little chat and a little love, she got me to show up the next day. And I tell you this story not to get you excited about tennis, unless you want to play tennis, Lindsey LaSalle. There is a time in love when you have to decide if you're going to keep doing it when the fun and games are over. When you start to feel it, it isn't as exciting as when it began. And it's like that in our lives too, I've noticed. Love doesn't stay neat. It is not predictable. Just like tennis, every match is a game against a new opponent with different skills and ideas and the ability to call the ball in or out, probably wrong, but they're going to call whatever they call because they get to do that. Just like humans, when you love them, they get to be them, and they get to do things that surprise you. Love is so strong and so fragile, and I believe that it's these tensions that make it complicated. So what do we do with it? Well, the Bible commands believers to love God and love others, right? Those are the greatest commandments. But how do you do that when it feels so complicated? How do we love when it feels like such a huge risk? There's a theologian that I learned about when I was in college over 20 years ago, and I still think about the words that she wrote to this day. Her name is Mildred Bangs Wynkoop, and she wrote a book called The Theology of Love. And she said, maybe the answer isn't that love is love. Maybe the answer is love is holiness. Now, holiness is a word that I always hated because it sounded so crusty and weird. It sounded like a campground where people wave handkerchiefs and run across the top of the seats in a tabernacle. I thought the word holiness was super, super weird for a super long time until I found out that it simply means set apartness. And that doesn't mean you have to be a weirdo, even though weirdos are cool, as you know, because I'm standing here and you think I'm cool. Weird as in it's not something that you have to be afraid of. Holiness is something that shows others your difference because Jesus made a difference. And so what Mildred says is that love is not an addition to holiness, it is holiness. Isn't that cool? It is the self-giving nature of God expressed in human life. And when I learned this, I thought, wow, then love isn't about anything that has to do with me. It's the self-giving nature that comes when God transforms me. Isn't that beautiful? And then love isn't something we have to learn. It's something we reflect. It's something we can be a part of. So if love is something that sets us apart and not the kind that you find in the Publix greeting card aisle, it becomes less sentimental. It becomes less rom-com. It becomes less hard to reach. When it becomes structured and when there's a plan, you can love on purpose, which means, though, it might not always feel safe. So I wonder what this love looks like, and I think about it, and I think, wow, I don't think we have to guess what does love look like. We don't have to guess at all. We actually have a beautiful example because Jesus shows us what love looks like. I want to show you what Jesus did to show us love. Jesus, through his life, through his example, through everything that he said, doesn't love from a distance. He stepped into grief, he listened, he wept, he gave, he died, he returned, he is with us. This is the whole beautiful story of Jesus in one little sentence. Jesus, who didn't consider equality with God something to be grasped, stepped into human form to experience through his own suffering what it would be like to be you. And then through that life and through his death and through his resurrection, he gave us an opportunity to experience life through him. It is the most beautiful thing. And the Bible says we love because he first loved us. It doesn't say we love because we went to a lesson every Sunday morning. Even though this time is good, our ability is through him. We don't have to figure it out because Jesus gave us a plan. So love isn't something we have to manufacture, and I think that's so cool. So I want to go back to all of these women. When I was thinking about today, I was thinking about which woman exemplifies this type of love, and I could not decide, so I decided to share about all of them. Is that cool? In my 7 nature heart, who cannot help but just indulge, I'm going to share all of the women of the Bible mostly with you. So I want to go through one by one, and this is just a taste of the Bible that I want to share, one story at a time. But I hope that you will write these stories down and go back to them and read the context of these beautiful women's stories, because there is grief and there is bitterness and there are trials and there are all these things, and I think those details will speak to you uniquely, and it will be very important to go back and look. So I'm going to go through kind of quick, and then I'm going to trust you to kind of go back and do the work, because that's what we do. We grow here, we learn here, we keep understanding. It's every day, not just today. Okay, so we're going to start with Hannah. Hannah, and I apologize, I made everything really small. It looked cute at home, but here we are. And I would like to just point out that all of these women, they all come from a very multicultural, diverse story. These women are not the women that we know. They come from a context. So I encourage you to study and to learn. Look up on the map. Find out where they were from and who they represent, because they will teach us something beautiful about God's creation and how we should live and reflect it. So Hannah, in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 10, it says, "In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly." Now, if you know anything about Hannah, you would find out that she longed for a child and could not have one. It was the most grief-stricken situation in her life. And the thing that Hannah doesn't do, Hannah doesn't filter her grief. She doesn't clean it all up and come to church and just chill about it. She shows up undone. Have you ever felt undone and had to quickly put it all back together? And I'm not just speaking to the women in the room, I'm speaking to all of us. Have you sat in your car undone because you gotta get done again before you get out of the car? This is where Hannah was. She was undone, crying, praying. And so what we learn from Hannah in her situation, when she comes to God, weeping bitterly, it says, we learn that love can refuse to shut down even when it hurts to hope. That is such a hard thing to do. But as we learn about our minds and our hearts and our bodies and what Jesus can do, this is possible. Hannah shows us love can refuse to shut down even when it hurts to hope. Let's take a look at Ruth. Ruth chapter 1, 16 and 17, she says, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God." This is a person walking on the outside of her community, on the outside of her ethnicity. She's walking out and she's saying, I will accept this strange situation. She's saying, this is complicated and this is scary. And do you know Ruth actually had an exit ramp? She could have gone back to what was familiar, to what made sense. But in her story, Ruth does something different. Ruth, because of love, stayed. She stayed in a complicated, scary situation where she was the minority, not because she was afraid, but because she loved. Ruth shows us love looks like choosing people over our comfort. And some of you know exactly what that's like, because you do it all the time. But when it's tough to do we do it? We have Esther in the 4th chapter of her book that never mentions God's name, but is all about God. It says, I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish. If I perish, I perish. Have any of you known someone who loves like this? Who is willing to go the distance no matter what happens? Esther knew exactly what speaking up for her people would mean. It could have cost her life, but she risked it to protect her family. To me, it's the most clear-eyed courage you can find. She knows the risk, and she steps forward anyway. Esther shows us love looks like standing in for someone who needs you. Standing in for someone who needs you. And that might not be a child in your life. It could be a friend in your life. It could be someone that you don't know. It could be a situation that's problematic, but you have a tool that you can bring to it. You have something, a way to lift their burden. There's so many ways that we can be like Esther, because she shows us that love looks like standing in for someone who needs you. And we all have needs sometimes. Then we have Mary, the mother of Jesus, in Luke chapter 1, verse 38. This is what she says. She says, I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. Like, I'm your servant. May whatever you say happen. Mary's yes in that moment might have seemed small, but in that moment, her yes rewrites her entire future. Her reputation, her plans, her expectation. A teenage girl says yes to an incredibly scary situation. And Mary shows us that sometimes love trusts God enough to move forward, even without all the details. Have you ever had to choose love without all the details? You just had to choose it, and you risked something because you knew that that love was more important than your feelings of control or your feelings of contentment or your feelings of safety and security. I'm not suggesting you walk into unsafe things. I'm saying when you are in a situation where you know love could change something and you have what it takes, that you can be like Mary and you can walk into that love even if you don't have all the details. Then we have Abigail in 1 Samuel 25, 32 through 33. It says, may you be blessed for your good judgment. I would love for you to go back and learn Abigail's story because she walks into a tense and dangerous situation and she de-escalates violence. She's an incredible woman. She acts quickly and she changes the outcome. And we learn from Abigail that love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's wise, it's steady, and it's brave enough to intervene. I know for me, I've had to really muster a lot of courage to intervene when I see an injustice. But once I started doing it a lot. And now my kids are like, Mom, you don't need to get involved. You don't need to get involved. I'm like, no, I'm getting involved. And I think I even got involved with some random guy on a drawbridge the other day, but he started it. He's literally yelling at me. I said, sir, did you have a bad morning? I don't know why, people want to say things and be upset and do unjust things and say unjust things. But there's a part of us that in saying something, it is loving, not in being violent and not being rude, but it just saying, this isn't right. Then we have the woman with the alabaster jar in Luke 7:37. She wept at Jesus' feet. She poured perfume on them. But here's the thing. She did that knowing people were in her business. They knew and said things about her, and she had a reputation, and she did that. She did not care what they thought. They knew they were judging her. Her love shows us we don't need to have it all together to show up fully. Then there's the Samaritan woman in John 4:28 and 29. She says, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Come on. She could have stayed quiet because that would have been easier because she could have said, I don't want to tell anybody that he knew everything ever, always. Instead, she said, come and see. Come and see. The Samaritan woman shows us that love tells the truth even when it's vulnerable. Even when it exposes something about you. It tells the truth and it creates more love. We have Mary Magdalene in John chapter 20, verses 16 through 18, and she becomes the first witness to the resurrection. Mary stays when others leave. I'm getting goosebumps. At the cross, at the tomb, even when it looks like the story is over, she stayed. Mary shows us love doesn't always fix. Sometimes it just stays. It says, I know you hurt me. I know you disappeared from me. I know you are unalive. You are in a rock. You are in a cave. But I'm going to stay because I believe and I have hope. And even in my ache, I'm going to stay. The widow of Zarephath in 1 Kings, she uses her last flour and oil to feed the prophet Elijah. She doesn't give from excess. She gives from scarcity. So many of us have excess, including me, and we don't give because we're afraid. And Jesus invites us to give because we are free. There was the persistent widow. We call her persistent because that is what she was. In Luke chapter 18, it says, grant me justice against my adversary. She says what she says, and she says it again, and she doesn't stop saying it. She wrote the blog, she tweeted the thing, she got on Snap, she told all her friends she had a coffee. Man, I want to be persistent. She knows how to love, and she teaches us that love keeps going when it would be easier to quit. When you step back and look at all of this together, all of us in this room, something starts to come into focus. None of these women were loving from a place of ease. None of them. They just kept loving. They were loving in grief, uncertainty, risk, tension, and not knowing how it would turn out. And somehow, that's where their hope and faith becomes visible and real. It's not polished love, it's holy love. It's not perfect love. It's not perfect, it's present love. It's not looking at a distance love. It's I see you right here and right now kind of love. So if that's what love looks like in their stories, what does it mean in ours? Because most of us are living in this place where we are either in love or in loss. And I want to show you, Melissa's going to help me. She has a couple of papers I didn't want to bend down weirdly to get. So Melissa's amazing, you guys. Give it up for Melissa. She's mothering me and helping me and being so wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so do you want to just help me and stand here? Okay, thank you. You're the best. So most of us, we live life like this. We either think we are in love or we are in loss, and we do everything we can to avoid anything that is like, if we're in loss, we don't feel love. And if we're in love, we don't want to admit that there's loss. But what ends up happening is we end up not realizing the beauty of both. So she's going to turn this around, and this is what I think life and living with Christ in our life actually looks like. It's in the intersection of love and loss that we learn how to have gratitude, that we learn how to be generous, that we learn how to be sacrificial, that we learn how to have desire, to have hope, to believe, to understand the plight of the poor, to look at the margins, because we gain creativity in the overlap. When we live life like this, let's flip, there is no opportunity for creativity. We don't know why we need hope or why we need joy. It's in the ache that you find that. And so if you are, thank you so much, you're beautiful. Give it up for Melissa. So if you find yourself living in the ache, praise God. I'm not saying you should be in pain. I don't want you to be in pain. But when pain comes, and it will, you can be present in it because it will teach you the most beautiful things. This is where the weight of love is felt, in that intersection of living in the ache. So if this is where we live, and if love isn't just something we can admire in these stories, but something we can do, how can we do it? I'm going to give you 5 ideas, straight from the stories. From Hannah and the Samaritan woman story, I want to invite you to show up honest, to stop pretending you're fine or you're not fine. Like, love tells the truth. That's what these stories say. Love tells the truth. So you can't love well if you're hiding. If you're grieving, say it. If you're joyful, say it. If you're crying, cry. If you're happy, be happy. Because in the intersection of that ache, we find each other and we become gifts. The second thing I want to take from these stories from Ruth and Mary Magdalene is this idea that we can stay when it feels easier to leave. Don't disappear when things get hard. Love happens in the present. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can ever do is stay. Stay with it. I remember when we moved to Lakeland, it was 19 years ago. I don't hear an audible voice from God, I will admit. I see colors. I have a bit of synesthesia, so when I pray, I see colors. What do colors mean? I don't know. But I saw a color, and I had a thought, and a word came to mind, and that word was remain. Stay. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to stay. That means if the pastor who hired me leaves, I'm going to stay. If only it were that simple. It meant when things get hard, stay. When you have another baby, stay. When your job changes, stay. When you accidentally, on purpose, start a church, stay. When it gets weird and you have to use porta potties and the whole thing gets flooded in the middle of a field, stay. When you move to a new building and the roof gets ripped off and it gets flooded again, stay. When people come and go, we love you, we don't know you, we love you, we're leaving, stay. When you build something new and it falls apart, stay. Jesus was teaching me and is still teaching me now that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay, even when it's the hardest thing you can do. Number 3, we learn from Esther and Abigail to step in when it matters. When you see something, you should say something. If something is unjust, if something is wrong, love isn't passive. It moves toward people, even when there's a risk. And we can do that in a loving way. We don't have to do that in a way that's violent. We don't have to do that in a way that's vitriolic. We can do that in a way that's loving. Number 4, say yes to what God is doing. Mary, the mother of Jesus, teaches us to say yes. We will not understand everything that's happening because we don't understand how God is working completely. If God says, I can do immeasurably more than you ever asked or imagined in your wildest dreams, wouldn't it be like common for God to do things that are bigger than our imagination? If that is the promise, then we have to believe that we're not going to understand everything completely. We may not have a script. We may not know the next step, but we believe in the promise that God says, I will never leave you and I will never forsake you. I will always love you and I will always be there for you. Number 5, the widows teach us this. Give what you have, even if it's small. Love isn't about having more. It's about offering what's already in your hands. There's a teacher in a family in this room today who thought maybe teaching is broken. And what was in her hands and her friend's hands was an ability to try something new. And I see so much beauty in giving what you have, because when you give what you have, it unlocks what other people have. It's like a puzzle, a beautiful creative puzzle that God puts together. And I believe that Somos Church is one of these unique thin spaces where the puzzle pieces come together. Coy and I have always been surprised when people come to our church and we're like, how did they get here? How did they find us? What is going on? And we always know it's God taking the marginal pieces and putting them together with the center pieces. And I don't even know what the puzzle looks like, but we're here to witness it and to say yes to it. And that might be something you can do in your family, with your friends, in your yes. You can bring what you have and then see what happens next. And then number 6, I said 5, but there were 6. It's a bonus one. The persistent widow invites us to keep loving. Even when it feels repetitive and nothing is changing and we are going nowhere fast and it is boring and love is boring sometimes. Amen, hallelujah. But it's also beautiful and joyful and surprising when we wait and when we show up and to see what could happen next. Love isn't an ending, it's a beginning. Love doesn't quit just because it's hard. Wine Coop would say, my Mildred, she would say that love isn't just an emotion. It's the way we live in relationship with God and others. I think I have that quote that you can share. I'll say it one more time. Love isn't just an emotion. It's the way we live in relationship with God and others. It's the way, it's active, it's not passive, it's not abstract, it's embodied, it's what we do with our flesh and our mind and our whole spirit. Love rarely chooses the easy road. Mildred would say, it may not feel like the safest choice, but it will always be the most sacred and holy thing you can do. If you grew up with someone telling you to be holy like God is holy, here's how. Love others even when it's hard. Love yourself even when you'd rather give up. Let the ache of your life be the beginning of something new. The overlap of the loss and the love can create something so beautiful in your life. Hannah wept, and yet she still prayed. Ruth stayed when she could have left. Esther stepped toward when silence could have protected her. Mary said yes without knowing the cost. Each story echoes this truth. Love may not guard your comfort, but it will always guard what is sacred and true. Love will not feel like a safe choice all the time, but it will feel like the most sacred and holy thing you can do. So that's my invitation this morning. As someone who is still learning to love and struggling every day, Coy and I are very, very open, and we talk about it all the time. Our stories are complicated, and sometimes our stories really interact with each other in ways that feel like pain. But the more we stay, the more love is revealed, and the more joy and hope and bravery and sacrifice and generosity can be growing there in that ache. Even being a mom to adult kids, I sometimes, instead of the ache, I start to think, wow, what if their life apart from me is the love that I needed? What if there's a space now for me to grow and to learn and to change and for them to water something in me? For the very first Mother's Day in my entire life, my oldest daughter took me to the mall and bought a gift for me. Isn't that cool? She took me to the store and she was like, Mom, I want to get you a necklace that you can play tennis in and still sweat and it won't turn colors. It was the most specific, thoughtful, I'm wearing it now. She really wanted to do it. She messaged me the week before. And so I kind of felt like, no, let's not go. She shouldn't spend her money. But I really made it happen. I was like, do you want to go to the mall now? And she said, sure, not really caring now after she had said it. So we go into the store and she's looking around for things and she's picking up different things and saying what she likes. And I said, I like anything that you like. And she said, Mom, but I like when you like yourself. What? Okay, I said I wasn't gonna cry, I'm not crying. And she said, I like this heart necklace because you like hearts and you live with a heart on your sleeve. Literally, you have a tattoo with a heart in your arm, Mom. And I said, well, thank you for noticing. I didn't know you even noticed. And she was like, yeah, Mom, and you're why I got tattoos. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We recently got a tattoo together, and I will tell you, if she's listening, she's probably not, but if she is, I really didn't want to get another tattoo. I don't need them. I don't care. But I care about her. And it cost me something because tattoos are painful, and I don't like that pain. I want to throw up the whole time. Even with one little tattoo stroke, it feels like I'm going to throw up, like birth pain, but not that bad, just a little annoying. And I told her, I said, hey, it means so much that you would do this for me. And she said, Mom, you do things for a lot of people. I want you to love you too. And so just a little aside at the end of this message, all of these things I've invited you to do for others, I also invite you to do for you. Because Jesus didn't die for the whole world but you. Jesus died for the whole world and you. And you matter so much. So I invite you into this beautiful ache that is love today on Mother's Day, the joy, the hope, the gift that is love. Let's pray. Jesus, I just thank you for loving us first, not from a distance, but just by stepping into our lives and into our grief and our stories. Teach us how to receive love, reflect love, and risk love. It's not easy. It's complicated. But we have all of these stories to learn from, and we have you, and we trust you, Jesus. And it's in your spirit and in your name that we embody the love that you gave to the whole world and also to us. So thank you for teaching us today. Amen. Amen.